In this module, we are going to learn classical goods market. Classical model is a macroeconomic model that explains the long run behavior of the economy, assuming that all markets clear. Keynes and his followers argued that while the classical model might explain the economy's operations in the long run could be a very long time in arriving. In the meantime, production could be stuck below its potential. Keynes' idea and their further development help us to understand economic fluctuations, that is, movements in outputs around its long run trend. The classical model has proven more useful in explaining the long run trend itself.
After studying this module, you shall be able to understand the classical versus Keynesian debate, understand the IS and LM curve under classical theory, understand monetary and fiscal policy in classical case, understand classical model of aggregate demand and aggregate supply.
We will start this module with the discussion of classical versus Keynesian. The debate. Classical and Keynesians are two economic schools of thoughts that take a very different approach to study the monetary policy, government spending and consumer behavior. Classical economics has its origins in the book The Wealth of the Nations by Adam Smith in 1776. Classical economic theory believes in laissez-faire or free market. It believes that market will work efficiently if there is little to no government intervention. It lays stress on the fact that individuals acting in their own self-interest will lead to efficient working of the economy as a whole. As such, government spending is not a major part of classical theory. The major assumptions of this model is that we tend towards full employment of available resources. Freely fluctuating prices in the three major macro markets, that is goods, labor and money, endure this. Classical economists focus on long-term solutions for economic problems. This model was popular before the Great Depression. John Maynard Keynes developed this theory after the classical model failed to explain the Great Depression. Keynesian economists believe that free market economies are unstable. They rely on the government intervention to make the economy work efficiently. Demand becomes a much bigger driving force and supply will adjust to demand. In a way, demand creates its own supply. According to Keynes, wages and prices are rigid. This model gives no reason to believe in full employment and lays stress on immediate solution to the economic problems. Next, we will discuss the IS curve. IS curve. The investment or saving curve is the locus of all points where the output is equals to the demand for goods, that is, the goods market is in equilibrium. Demand for goods is the sum of consumption demand, investment and government spending. Therefore, the demand for goods is given by Z is equals to C bracket Y minus T bracket close plus I plus G, where Y minus T is the disposable income. The equilibrium condition is thus Y is equals to C bracket Y minus T bracket close plus I plus G. Investment demand depends on two factors. Sales. If a firm experiences an increase in sales, it will want to increase its investment on machine or infrastructure for greater production. Alternatively, with lower sales, it reduces its investment. The second factor is interest rates. A lower interest rate on borrowing increases investment. If interest rates are very high, then the additional benefit of any new investment will be not cover the amount lost as interest and hence no new investment will be undertaken. The investment can therefore be written as I is equals to I as a function of Y and I. Now our equilibrium relation can be written as Y is equals to C bracket Y minus T bracket close plus I, which is a function of Y and I plus G. This is our IS relation. For a given interest rate, the demand increases with output because of two reasons. An increase in output leads to an increase in disposable income and hence to an increase in consumption. A rise in output results in a rise in investment.
Demand is an increasing function of output for a given interest rate can be represented by the ZZ curve in the given diagram. As we are silent on whether consumption and investment functions are linear, ZZ is a curve rather than a straight line. The above diagram represents equilibrium in goods market, which requires that demand for goods be equal to the production. IS curve gives us the equilibrium points as interest rates change. As such, to derive the IS curve, we proceed as follows. We map the initial equilibrium A in the lower panel. Now suppose there is a change in the interest rate, say an increase. This lowers the investment demand as it makes borrowing more expensive. This in turn lowers the total demand, causing the ZZ curve to shift down to ZZ dash. Our new equilibrium will now be point A dash. We again map this point in the lower panel. We proceed similarly by varying the interest rates and mapping the corresponding equilibrium points, thus tracing out our IS curve.
Next, we will discuss the LM curve under the classical theory. LM curve. The liquidity money curve is the locus of all points where the supply of money equals the demand of money, that is, the financial market is in equilibrium. The money supply is assumed to be controlled by the central bank. The money demand refers to the willingness of holding cash and depends on the level of income and interest rates. Three reasons are identified for holding cash balances. Transaction demand. To pay for day-to-day transactions. It is believed that as you earn more, the money spent on daily activities increases, hence the demand for liquid money increases proportionately with income. Second is precautionary demand. This is the cash balance kept for emergency transactions. And third is the speculative demand. Keynes suggested that people have a choice between holding cash balances, which earns no interest, or investing their money in some asset which is less liquid but earns some interest. We can see this by comparing the situation where we hold cash or invest it in a bond. When interest rates are low, people expect it to rise, which will cause their bond prices to fall and as a result in a capital loss. Therefore, with low interest rates, people prefer to hold more cash rather than invest in bonds where they could suffer a capital loss. Similarly, when interest rates fall, people make a capital gain because of the higher bond prices. People form the view that the rates will fall further and as such prefer to hold more bonds than cash. Therefore, the money demand varies negatively with the interest rates. Money supply, that is MS, is determined by the central bank and does not depend on the interest rates and is represented by a vertical line. The money demand curve, that is MD, is downward sloping with respect to the interest rates and shifts outward at higher income levels. When income rises, transactions demand for money rises. At original interest rates, this results in an excess demand for money. However, as money supply is fixed, to restore equilibrium, interest rates rise, thereby lowering the demand for money.
The intersection of the two curves gives us points of equilibrium in financial market. Plotting these points of intersection in the right hand panel gives us the LM curve. In classical theory, demand for money does not depend upon interest rates, that is, the speculative demand for money is ignored. MD curve shifts outward when Y rises and inwards when Y falls. As such, there is only one income level where MS and MD curves will coincide, and this gives us our money market equilibrium. The LM curve plotted in the classical case is therefore vertical.
Now we will discuss the monetary policy in the classical case. Monetary policy is the tool used by the government to alter the money supply and hence affect the various economic variables like interest rate, output, employment and price stability. This change in MS affects the LM curve. LM curve shifts right when money supply rises, which is also known as expansionary monetary policy. Alternatively, it shifts inward when money supply falls, which is also known as contractionary monetary policy. The relative effectiveness of the monetary policy depends on the slope of the IS and the LM curves. It is more effective when LM curve is steeper.
Monetary policy is most effective with classical LM curve. This is because as the demand for money is inelastic to the changes in interest rates, a change in money supply is very powerful in bringing about a large change in interest rates. A large change in interest rates leads to a large change in investment and hence the output. Next, we will discuss the fiscal policy in classical case. Fiscal policies are the policies which are used to monitor spending levels and tax rates. In an expansionary fiscal policy, government increases expenditure and or reduces taxes, shifting the IS curve outwards. IS shifts inward with a contractionary fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is completely ineffective with a vertical LM curve. This can be seen in the diagram of an expansionary fiscal policy which shifts the IS curve. The interest rate rises, but it does not affect output level at all. Any rise in output which could have happened due to increased expenditure is set off by fall in investment due to higher interest rates. Now we will discuss the aggregate demand curve. The aggregate demand curve gives all combinations of price and output where the goods and financial markets are simultaneously in equilibrium. AD curve derived as follows. The AD curve traces out the points where the IS and LM curves intersect. Suppose initially that we have our LM curve drawn for a given price level P. This curve intersects the IS curve at point A and we plot this price output combination in the lower panel. Now suppose that there is a rise in the price level from P to P dash. This would lower the real money supply M by P. To maintain the equilibrium in the financial market, the money demand should also be lowered and this is achieved by increasing the interest rate. So, at the same level of output, the interest rate rises causing the LM curve to shift up to LM dash. It now intersects the IS curve at point A dash and we plot it again on the lower panel. Changing the price level and plotting all new equilibrium points will give us our AD curve. As can be seen from the curve in the lower panel, an increase in prices causes the output to fall. Next, we will discuss the aggregate supply curve. The aggregate supply curve tells us the amount of output firms are willing to supply at different price levels. The AS relation can be found using the following method. The nominal wage can be determined as the following. W is equals to P to the power E into F, which is a function of U and Z.
Herein, PE is equals to expected price level. If the laborers think that there will be a rise in the commodity prices in future, then they will ask for an increase in their wages. If firms think that the price of their goods will rise in future, they will be willing to give a wage raise. If both laborers and firms think the price level will change, they will change the wage accordingly. We look at the expected price and not the nominal price because the wage contracts are set before the actual price level is known. U is equals to unemployment rate. A rise in the unemployment rate will lower the bargaining power of the laborers and hence cause their wages to fall. Z is equals to, Z takes into account all other variables except PE and U that affect the wage like social security, unemployment insurance, etc. We assume that wages vary positively with Z. Now we can determine the price as following. To simplify our model, we assume that the production function depends only on one factor, that is labor, and hence it can be written as y is equals to Cn, where y is equals to output, n represents labor input and C is equals to constant. In this model, C would represent constant labor productivity. We can choose the units of output so that one worker produces 1 unit of output, so that C is equals to 1. Now our production function becomes y is equals to n. In a perfectly competitive market, we would then have price equals to marginal cost, which in this case would be cost of one additional unit of worker, that is W. However, perfect competition is rarely observed and firms charge a price higher than the marginal cost.
This can be easily captured by the following formula. P is equals to 1 plus M into W, where M is the markup of price over cost. U is equals to U by L, which is equals to N minus L by L, which is equals to 1 minus N by L, which is equals to 1 minus Y by L, where U is equals to unemployment, L represents the labor force, and N represents employment. Using previous equations, we get P is equals to P to the power E into 1 plus M into F bracket 1 minus Y by L comma Z bracket close. We can see from this equation that given expected price level, an increase in output causes an increase in price level, that is U is equals to 1 minus Y by L varies negatively with wages. This happens because an increase in output raises the employment or lowers the unemployment, thereby increasing the bargaining power of labor and hence their wages. This rise in wages translates into an increase in prices. Therefore, the AS curve is upward sloping. A rise in the expected price level will shift the AS curve upwards. Next, we will discuss the classical model of aggregate demand and aggregate supply. The AS and AD curves together determine the equilibrium price and income. The AS curve has two extreme cases based on the two different schools of thought, Keynesian and classical. The classical aggregate supply curve is vertical, implying that the amount of goods supplied will be the same no matter what the price is. This happens because in classical case, we assume that the economy is at full employment level. This can be understood as follows. Suppose we have an economy where all factors are fully employed. Now, a firm wants to raise output in response to an increase in demand. Had there been some unutilized resources, it could have employed them. However, as all resources are already in use, there is no way to increase in production, and all that happens is that there is a rise in prices and hence wages. We will now see the effects of a vertical supply schedule. The firms will supply the output Y star no matter the price level. We will do the working for an increase in aggregate demand. AS is the aggregate supply schedule. AD is the original aggregate demand schedule. E denotes the original equilibrium. It will have full employment level as under classical case, firm supply output attained at full employment of available resources. Now say because of the rise in demand, AD curve shifts outward to AD dash. So at original prices, quantity demanded is E dash. However, as firms were producing only output E, they try to increase production. To increase production, they try to hire more labor. However, as all labor is fully employed, there can be no new hiring and only shifting of labor from one firm to another. To attract labor, firms increase their wages offered, but this raises the cost of production and hence prices start to increase. A rise in prices reduces the real money stock M by P, and hence we start moving left along the AD curve. Moving on to the comparison of classical AS with Keynesian AS. In Keynesian AS, we assume that firms will supply any amount of output at a given price. The intuition behind this kind of a supply curve is that there are underutilized resources in the economy, and such if need arises, firms can hire more labor at the same wages. The notion of short-term price stickiness arises from here. If the AD curve shifts outward in this case, then the only effect is an increase in output and hence employment with no change in prices. Firms will supply any amount of output at the given prices, so if demand rises, they simply increase their output. As some labor was unemployed, now they do not need to attract labor from other firms and can get the required amount of labor at the same wages. As wages are unchanged, there is no increase in cost of production and hence no increase in the prices. These models are not representations of different worlds. Both types of AS curves are true. Keynesian AS holds in the short run, while the classical AS in the long run. The positively sloped supply curve we are familiar with holds occur in the midterm.
Classical and Keynesians are two economic schools of thoughts that take a very different approach to study the monetary policy, government spending and consumer behavior. IS curve is the investment saving curve, which is the locus of all points where the output is equals to the demand for goods, that is the goods market is in equilibrium. Whereas LM curve is the liquidity money curve, which is the locus of all points where the supply of money equals the demand for money, that is where the financial market is in equilibrium. Monetary policy is the tool used by government to alter the money supply and hence affect the various economic variables like interest rates, output, employment and price stability. Fiscal policies are the policies which are used to monitor spending levels and tax rates. The aggregate demand curve gives all combinations of prices and outputs where the goods and the financial markets are simultaneously in equilibrium. The AS curve tells us the amount of output firms are willing to supply at different price levels. The AS and AD curves together determine the equilibrium price and income.